Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. We love to take all of the information that you send our way
Yeah.
and really, condense it down so it's not overwhelming.
Right.
And you've been sharing a lot of information about education, like a lot.
Education, yeah, it's a big one.
It is a huge topic, so many articles, so much research. And we're here to figure out, really what are the advantages of education for both the individual and for society as a whole?
Yeah, and looking at everything you sent in, it's really interesting to see just how widespread the impact of education is.
Right. Like when you think about education,
Yeah.
the first thing that probably comes to mind is
Career.
career, right? Is like, how's this going to help me get a job?
Yeah.
But it's so much more than that.
Oh, yeah, there are so many other benefits.
Yeah, and I think let's start with the career stuff, though, because,
That's true.
it's important to so many people.
Absolutely.
And, just from looking at your sources, it's clear that getting an education really helps you in the job market
It does when you have those qualifications and you have specific skills and
and
knowledge.
experience all of those things.
It makes you stand out.
And you're more likely, I think, to find meaningful work.
Absolutely. You're going to be more competitive in the job market, for sure.
Right, and it's not just about getting any job. It's about
Right.
getting a job that you actually want to do.
Exactly. Exactly. One that you find fulfilling.
Right.
And if we look at the finances, that long-term financial picture,
Yeah.
it's clear that people with a bachelor's degree, typically earn a lot more over their lifetime
Which more
than
than
someone with just a high school diploma.
right, and that gap seems like it's widening.
It really does seem to be growing.
And there were some, pretty stark numbers in the research that you shared.
Yeah, there were some big numbers.
One report mentioned that the median lifetime earnings for a high school graduate is about $1.6 million.
Wow.
But if you have a bachelor's degree, that jumps up to $2.8 million.
Huge difference.
It's massive. And then if you go even further and get a master's degree,
Yeah.
it's $3.2 million.
Wow.
So clearly, on average, you're going to make a lot more money over your lifetime if you have a college degree,
And on top of that, the job security is better too.
right?
The unemployment rate for people with a bachelor's degree is much lower.
Yeah, I think it was like 2-point-something%.
Yeah, something like that versus over 4% for high school graduates.
Yeah, so much lower.
So there's definitely more stability there.
Yeah, but it's not just about the money and the job. It's
Huh.
about so much more than that.
Totally. I think about the life skills that you develop when you pursue an education.
Right.
You learn how to solve problems. You learn how to think critically.
Yes, you learn how to make good decisions.
All those things.
And, it's not just about like memorizing facts and figures.
No, it's not about rote memorization.
It's really about
It's about learning how to think,
learning how to think,
how to analyze information.
to analyze, to be objective,
Yeah.
to come up with solutions to problems.
Exactly. It's about equipping yourself to tackle any challenge that comes your way.
And those skills are useful in literally every aspect of their life.
They really are in your career, your personal life, everywhere.
And it makes you more adaptable and resilient.
Absolutely. It helps you roll with the punches and come up with creative solutions.
And you mentioned something else that I thought was really interesting when we were talking before,
Yeah.
which was about health and well-being.
Yeah, there's a lot of research that shows a strong connection between higher education and better health outcomes.
And it seems counterintuitive, right? Because
Yeah, you'd think it would be the other way around.
you think like, oh, you're spending all this time in school,
Stressing about exams.
you're not focusing on your health.
Right.
But actually, like the research shows that people with higher levels of education
Yeah.
tend to be healthier overall.
It's true, and there's a few potential reasons for that.
Like what?
Well, for one, they might have more knowledge about health and wellness.
Oh, that makes sense.
So they're making better choices.
Right.
Also, because they tend to have higher incomes,
Yeah.
they might have better access to healthcare and healthier food options.
So they can afford to take care of themselves.
Exactly, and that can make a big difference in the long run.
And we see this reflected in things like low rates of chronic illness,
Right.
reduced risk of premature death, even a decreased likelihood of depression.
It's really fascinating to see how education can impact so many different areas of life.
It is, and it's not just about the individual. It's about society as a whole.
Right, when individuals are healthier and more skilled, it benefits everyone.
Totally. And one of the big things that came up in the research
Yeah.
was civic engagement.
Yeah, that's a key one.
So people who are more educated are more likely to vote.
Yeah, they're more likely to be involved in their community.
They're more likely to volunteer.
Exactly, and it's not just about showing up, it's about being informed and engaged citizens.
Right. And there's a whole field of civic education,
Yeah.
which helps people understand how government works,
Yeah.
how to participate in democracy.
It gives people the tools and knowledge they need to be responsible citizens.
And that's so important for a healthy democracy.
It really is.
We need people to be informed and engaged.
Absolutely.
And there was another correlation that was really interesting.
Yeah, what was that?
higher education levels are linked to lower crime rates.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I think there was one statistic that said that for every additional year of average education
Yeah.
in a community, you could see a reduction in
It
arrests.
was like an 11% reduction or something like that.
11% or more, which is crazy to think about.
That's a significant decrease.
It really is, and I think it speaks to the idea that when
Yeah.
people have more opportunities,
Yeah.
they're less likely to resort to crime.
Exactly. And when they have strong problem-solving skills,
Right.
they're better equipped to deal with challenges in a constructive way.
And education also plays a vital role in something that's increasingly important in today's world,
Yeah, what's that?
which is fostering cultural awareness, tolerance, and social cohesion.
Absolutely.
Because when you're educated, you're exposed to different cultures,
You learn that different perspectives.
different viewpoints.
And you start to see the world through a wider lens.
Right, and that helps to break down stereotypes.
And build bridges between people.
It helps us to understand and appreciate each other.
Exactly. And that's essential for creating a more just and equitable society.
And education, of course, is also a driver of progress.
Absolutely.
It fuels innovation,
Technological advancements.
economic growth.
It's the engine of progress.
It really is. And we see this in the fact that
Yeah.
countries with higher levels of education
Uh-huh.
tend to be more economically prosperous.
They tend to be more competitive in the global market.
And that's because they have a highly educated workforce
Right.
that's more productive, more innovative.
And more adaptable to the changing needs of the economy.
And that brings us to another really important point,
Yeah.
which is the idea of breaking the cycle of intergenerational immobility.
Right. That's a crucial one.
So education can really help to level the playing field
It can give people the tools they need to overcome socioeconomic barriers.
and create better opportunities for their children.
Yeah, we see this in the research, the impact of a mother's education on her children's well-being,
Yeah.
and how factors like homeownership, which is often facilitated by education,
Right.
can really boost a child's success in school.
So, we've talked about a lot of different benefits of education.
We have. It's a wide-ranging impact.
It is from personal career advancement
Uh-huh.
to better health to a stronger society.
And a more prosperous future.
It's really quite remarkable. So I want to leave you with this thought, as
Mhm.
you've been listening to all of this. Which aspect of education's impact
Yeah.
resonates most with you?
Yeah, what speaks to your goals?
To your aspirations for the future?
Yeah, that's something to think about.
It's a powerful thought to sit with.
It is.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into education.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.